Holmes reveals Holmes interviewed more than 70 former and current Suns employees who have been part of the team throughout Sarver's 17-year tenure. Now, according to the report, Sarver has used racially insensitive and lewd language repeatedly in the office and displayed conduct employees recount as inappropriate and misogynistic. Multiple current and former employees also told ESPN about conduct by other members of the Suns leadership team they felt contributed to the work environment. While none said Sarver was involved in those incidents, many felt that Sarver's own conduct contributed to that culture that affected how some other managers within the organization treated their employees. In the ESPN report, Sarver denied or disputed most of the allegations throughout his legal team. The Suns also strongly denied the report in a lengthy statement released Thursday. Also on Thursday, the NBA has asked a law firm to commence a comprehensive investigation. Brian Windhorst joining us now, NBA insider. Wendy, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'm going to start with you, though, Stephen A. Do you think Sarver has to go?
Well, that depends on the NBA's investigation. I would tell you that based off of what I read, it's hard to get rid of him because the accusations are incredibly damning. Mm-hmm. But he's denied most of them. And because he's denied most of them, people who try to compare it to Donald Sterling are missing the point that you had Donald Sterling on audio. You heard what he said. And then on top of it all, he did an interview with CNN thereafter with Anderson Cooper, if I remember correctly, that was just as incriminating. And so when you have people that are standing up and saying, as black folks, he's got to go. From LeBron James to Melo and D. Wade to Chris Paul, who was president of the Players Association while playing for Donald Sterling, well, you know that had to happen. In this case, here's where it gets a bit tricky. There is clearly where there's smoke, there's fire, there's clearly some inappropriate stuff, some of the things that he has said, some of the sexual innuendos he threw out, showing pictures of his wife in a bikini, the women that were made to feel incredibly uncomfortable, along with some of the use of the N-word. Eric Watson says, Watson says, hey.
Earl Watson.
Yep. That's right. Earl Watson said, listen, this is what he said. You can't say that. You can't say that stuff. And clearly, you know what? He has some bitterness towards Robert Sarver, but that don't make him false. The problem is it's a lot of he said, she said. And so as a result, it does warrant an internal investigation. There is no question about that. But speaking to the league office last night with them telling me that, hey, we're going to investigate this. We're not going to jump to conclusions. Remember, this is an owner. And people keep forgetting that with Donald Sterling, Adam Silver banned him for life. But forcing him to sell the team, you needed the owners to sign off on that. That's just not a unilateral decision that can be handed down by Adam Silver in the league. So for people who are screaming about that with Sarver, that's pretty hard to do. And let's not forget, me as a black man sitting up here, at this particular moment, he's got a black coach. He's got a black GM. 6 of his 10 coaches, it's pathetic that he's had that many coaches in his tenure. That says a lot about him. But 6 to 10 of them have been black. And so when you talk about diversity and what have you, I don't know the numbers because I have not looked them up within his organization, but he clearly has not been averse to hiring minorities. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you take all of these things into consideration. I think the 2 damning things against him is the misogyny. Yeah. There's no question about that. The misogyny and just some of the inappropriate remarks and behavior. I just don't know if that equates to him having to surrender ownership of the team. He might have to incur a stiff fine like Mark Cuban had to because of what was happening with the Dallas Mavericks. But that was happening within the Dallas Mavericks organization. In this case, it's Sarver himself who has been accused of these actions.
But a little bit of that, too, because they said it affected how the culture and how other managers managed based on him from the top down.
Yeah, but with Mark Cuban, they just say, look, he oversaw me in his organization. With Sarver, they say, no, it's that guy.
Yeah, no, it's Sarver, but with some tentacles. Right. Wendy, your thoughts. Do you think he needs to go?
So this all really came, the short-term future for Robert Sarver came down to Monty Williams last night here in Phoenix. Monty Williams, maybe outside of Greg Popovich, has more capital than probably any other NBA head coach right now. He's coming off a finals appearance. He is incredibly well respected by players, by management, by ownership. And what he was going to say before the game, because he wouldn't comment on this when the Suns first denied these reports 2 weeks ago. He basically said, I'm going to stand and wait for the story to come out. How Monty handled that story was going to set the tone not only for his players, but probably for the rest of the organization. And what Monty did is essentially what Stephen A. just said. He said, I'm going to wait for the investigation. He said, I'm not going to call Earl Watson. I'm going to wait to see what happens. Now, and basically Chris Paul and Devin Booker came out after the game and said the exact same thing. Now, sitting there in the room and being here in Phoenix, I would tell you that if Monty had gone the other direction and said, hey, listen, and went against Robert Sarver, this could have snowballed real fast. And I don't think that they would have, forced him to sell the team, but he could have been suspended or had to step away. Monty saying, let the investigation play out, turned the temperature down on this whole situation. Now, I was kind of interested in the fact that he didn't say, listen, regardless of he said, there's no place for this word in the NBA. There's no place in this word from ownership to players. And if that is true, there's no place for anybody in the league who says that. I wish Devin Booker or Chris Paul would have said something like, I feel so bad that there are people in our organization who obviously spoke to ESPN who felt like they weren't comfortable working for this team either in the past or even today. But they basically just punted onto the investigation.
Excuse me 1 second, because I heard you on the Overnight Sports Center, and I heard you said that he punted, but I don't feel like that's totally true. Because if you heard Monty Williams in his entirety in the opening statement, he said, if you know me, and essentially if you know me and my character, if I knew any of this was going on, I would not be here right now. So he did condemn the behavior. All Williams did with his opening statement.
Kind of.
In my opinion, he did.
Okay. I think all of them, and by the way, the tone got set from the Players Association. In the afternoon, the Players Association said, we're going to wait for the investigation. Once I saw that, I knew what was going to happen here. I knew they were all in alignment. And I think one of the things that was an issue here is that, as Stephen A. said, in the past, the standard, whether it was Donald Sterling or Bruce Levinson, who owned the Atlanta Hawks and sent an insensitive email that contributed to him selling the team, to John Gruden, the expectation today is if it's not, on video or undocumented, that we have to step back. And that's just the reality. The other thing is, 2 weeks ago, the Suns knew this was coming, and I've been with them on and off for 2 weeks, home and road. They have been under stress, expecting the worst, preparing for a Sterling tape situation. And when that didn't happen, it sort of caused them to say, let's just wait. And that is a responsible thing to say. But I do think that they punted, Molly, because I think that they had an opportunity to set the tone to say this is not acceptable, and we'll see what's true.
I know
and
Stephen
instead
A.
they said, we'll hear from the NBA.
I'm going to say a couple of things that might ruffle a few people's feathers, but I really don't care. You know me. Let me be very clear about where I stand as it pertains to some of the things that Sarver has been accused of. Clearly, particularly in this day and age, you should know better than spewing the N-word. We all understand that. I personally am far more concerned with the misogyny that they said he was exhibiting. And you got women that were talking about wanting to commit suicide working for this organization.
That affected their mental health.
Their mental health was severely compromised. To me, even though I don't condone nor approve of any white person using the word, when you come into a locker room and you say, why is it that this player could say the word, but I can't say it? To me, is stupid and as egregious and as irresponsible as that is, that pales in comparison to forcing people want to commit suicide. So that's number one. Number two, this is what we also have to take into consideration. James Jones, the GM, came out and said, I've never seen this behavior. Monty Williams said, if you know me, I wouldn't be here. I've never seen this behavior. Chris Paul has given no indication, nor Devin Booker, that they've seen that behavior. And on top of it all, somebody that is a champion, that has been around, that, to be quite honest with you, is one of the nicest people most of us have met in this business, Brian Windhorst. Coach Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors was the former GM of the Phoenix Suns. He said he was shocked to hear this because in his years of being with the organization, he never saw anything like that. I don't know about anybody else, but Steve Kerr's words matter to me. And so when I look at it from that perspective, and then I couple that with the absence of video or audio showing and displaying this kind of behavior, is an investigation warranted? Absolutely. Does some kind of reprimand needs to come down? Absolutely. Does he need to fall back and somebody else needs to be at least the face of this organization in a public stratosphere so you don't have to, you could deal with him in another way? Sure. But when people talk about confiscation of ownership of a franchise where other owners who are not black outside of Michael Jordan in the NBA, by the way, okay, these other owners are supposed to vote him out and not want him to be a part of their ownership clique, the board of governors and all of that other stuff.